tire woes at Texas. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Nnscra Radio as we are here live in the 1620 BCBM Studios booth, getting ready to recap what took place yesterday at Texas Motor Speedway, or shall we say, Tire Trouble, Texas. Man, Goodyear's got a lot of work to do to try and figure out what went wrong in that race. Several drivers encountering problems with tire issues. A lot of them had left rear issues. A lot of them right front issue or right rear issues, I should say. I don't know what it was about the track conditions that caused that, but a lot of big notables getting involved with these tire troubles, including a couple of drivers who are battling still for the championship. The most notable of them, Joey Logano, who I think officially he finished in the, I want to say it was the 39th position. It might have been 41st. I don't remember if he passed Alex Bowman before the race was over or not. I think he finished in 41st place, though. But man, I mean, Joey Logano got involved in it. 2 tire issues for Kevin Harvick. However, he was able to somewhat battle back for a decent finish. But then we had other drivers that had issues, including Kyle Larson. We had Ryan Newman with tire problems. We had Trevor Bayne with tire issues. I don't think Dale Earnhardt Jr. really had a tire issue. His was more just a loose condition after getting the wall. But, I mean, a lot of drivers with tire issues at Texas. And while it is something that Goodyear's got to look into, it did, however, play a big part into the race in the fact that it had to cause drivers to notice, hey, we're having tire issues, other drivers having tire issues. We've got to change our game plan, change our strategy on how we're going to race this racetrack. I mean, if you think about it, if the tire issues had not been there, then it would have been drivers going full speed, not caring, and more than likely would have turned into one of those boring mile-and-a-half races that we're so used to. The fact that there was that tire issue out there threw a monkey wrench into the whole strategy of how these drivers were going to be racing, and I think ended up making the Texas race a lot better than it potentially could have been had the tire issue not reared its ugly head. Now, with that being said, it also, as I mentioned, involves some drivers that are battling for the championship and made it a little bit more entertaining in those respects as to, oh wow, is this going to have championship implications as to whether these drivers are going to make it into the championship final for at Homestead, Miami. Also, another thing about this particular race was, yeah, it was a domination put on by Brad Keselowski, but then who would have thought it? The team that was going to be the ones to challenge the dominant car of the day, none other than the 48 car of Jimmy Johnson, taking the lead. I think he led the last 6 laps. But the most important one was the last one, which he led and captured what was his 5th victory of the season. Now, most people will know I'm not exactly the most diehard Jimmy Johnson fan out there. However, I'm not going to begrudge Jimmy Johnson a victory at this particular point in time because it doesn't have any championship implications for him. He's already eliminated. If the team can get a couple of wins before the season's over, I really don't have much of a problem. My issue was with the fact that he has won so many championships and all of them, consecutively. It's time for somebody else to step to the forefront and win a championship in the Sprint Cup Series, in my opinion. So yes, I was happy to see Johnson get eliminated. Am I upset to see him go to victory lane, though, if he sweeps here at Texas, Phoenix, Homestead? No, I honestly would not care. It's a good team. I'll give them credit. They overcome adversity. I just did not think it was time to see him go to victory lane, at championship victory lane, for a 7th time in his career. Now, with that being said, Jimmy Johnson wins the race. Huge implications with that. The fact that now Brad Keselowski finds himself, after the horrible race he had at Martinsville, still outside of the top 4. As a matter of fact, the points, I'll give them to you in just a moment. But it's really going to be close heading into Phoenix for sure as far as the championship clinch scenarios, because now we still have only one driver we know for certain is locked into the Final Four at Homestead, and that is Jeff Gordon after winning at Martinsville. So keep that in mind. The other three are going to be determined either if one of the remaining seven win a race this coming week at Phoenix, or if we end up having the three race their way in via the points, which, by the way, are as follows. You got Jeff Gordon. He's still actually leading the points. If you didn't count his win, he would still be the current points leader out of, say, everybody has not won a race in this Challenger round. Kyle Busch is currently second. He's 2 points out of the lead. He enjoys a 11-point advantage over fifth in the standings. Kevin Harvick is currently third. He's 10 points up. And Martin Truex Jr. is fourth. He's 7 points up. 7 points out of fourth place. That would be Carl Edwards. Brad Keselowski finds himself 19 points back. Then you got Kurt Busch. He is a total of 28 points back. And this is from fourth place, I'm saying. And then Joey Logano, of course, after two hardship races, getting wrecked by Matt Kenseth while leading at Martinsville. Tire goes down. I think he finished something like 68 laps down to the leaders at Texas. Finds himself with a huge gap of 63 points to make up. So, is it going to come down between Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., Carl Edwards for those final transfer spots? It certainly seems like it, unless Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, or Joey Logano can pull off a miraculous victory at Phoenix. All right, so based on what NASCAR has put together, here's the championship clinch scenarios to be able to get into the Final Four at Homestead. Gordon doesn't have to worry about it. Kyle Busch will clinch with a finish of third place or better. If he leads a lap, he can finish as low as fourth, or if he leads the most laps, he can finish in fifth place. Whatever happens with the other drivers doesn't matter. He would be in the championship hunt. Kevin Harvick would clinch with a finish of second or better, third place with a lap led, or fourth place with most laps led. And then, for Martin Truex Jr., Carl Edwards, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, basically for them, it's a must-win situation with a possible exception. If Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick run into trouble, that is the opportunity for Martin Truex Jr. and Carl Edwards. That's what they need. They need for something bad to happen to Kevin Harvick or Kyle Busch. If something bad happens to Kyle Busch, Truex can move up to third, Carl Edwards can move up to fourth. If something happens to Harvick, same scenario can happen. But if nothing happens to either of those drivers, it's more than likely going to come down between Mark Truex Jr. and Carl Edwards to battle for that final fourth transfer spot. And as I said, the two of them are separated by 7 points heading into Phoenix. But we have to also keep in mind, Truex and Edwards are also hoping that Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, or Joey Logano cannot get up to the front and win the race. If they do, that completely eliminates Truex and Edwards from the picture, because if Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick still hold on to spots 2 and 3, there's your final spots filled in by the race winner. So it will be very, very interesting to see what happens. And I will readily admit, I honestly did not really follow the chase for the championship that took place last season in 2014 until the season finale. I did watch the season finale, but didn't really pay much attention to everything leading up to that event. I have to say that in relationship to last season, this season, the chase format has been more exciting in the events that have taken place. We know Gordon's going to be in. I would very much be surprised if Kyle Busch doesn't make it, and I would also be surprised if Kevin Harvick doesn't make it. However, there's that wondering about Carl Edwards and Martin Truex Jr. And remember Carl Edwards, I'm trying to remember what year it was. I want to say back 2012? 2013? I think it was 2012. When Tony Stewart beat Carl Edwards for the championship when they were in a tie, because Tony Stewart had the most wins. Carl Edwards is looking for some redemption. Martin Truex Jr. has never made a chase in his life. This is his first one. They're a single-car race team out of Denver, Colorado, and he is with a chance to be battling for his first ever Sprint Cup Series championship. And from what I've understood, Martin Truex Jr. and his team thrive at tracks like Homestead Miami Speedway, so keep that in mind as well. So, will Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Joey Logano be able to mount some kind of a comeback? Now, we've talked already about Kurt Busch, how this seemed to be his round. He'd had previous wins at Martinsville, at Texas, and at Phoenix. Well, he dug himself an awfully big hole at Martinsville, not of his making, by the way, though he did not have anything to do with triggering that wreck. He was an innocent bystander, but it put him behind the 8-ball. And then the fact that he wasn't able to get up there to the front at Texas really hurt his chances too. So for Kurt Busch, they're saying for Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, it's a must-win situation. There's no way they can get their way up there via points at this point in time, based on the scenarios heading into Phoenix International Raceway. Logano, I don't know, maybe the air has been deflated out of that team. I mean, they get that first blow with Kenseth wrecking them in the lead, and then you have a tire go down early in the race, find yourself multiple laps down, and know that you're not going to be able to battle up there at all. And he finishes, if I'm not mistaken, I believe was officially in the 41st position. I can confirm that in just a moment. But I don't know. It almost seems like not the same Joey Logano. And then Brad Keselowski. Well, we saw a lot of strength out of that 2 team, but they weren't able to hold off Jimmy Johnson. So if I were to pick one of the 3 to be a contender for the win, to try and make their way in the must-win situation, to make their way into the Final Four, it would more than likely have to be Brad Keselowski, based on what we saw at Texas. But keep in mind, Phoenix and Texas are completely different from each other. By the way, the confirmed finishing spot, my staff was able to get it to me. He did indeed pass Alex Bowman and was able to finish in the 40th position. So I thought he had, but I wasn't certain. But he did finish, looks like a total of 66 laps down to the race winner. So, with that being said, now we look forward to Phoenix. But we're going to be covering that in the wrap-up segment coming up next. So, thanks, guys, for tuning in for this first second. We'll be right back after this commercial break, as you're listening to Nnscra Radio on 1620 WCBM, Nelliston, New York.